Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all, I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut up your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Terrence Oglesby. I have Bill Raftery's grandson. Is that right? Younger nephew, great nephew, his great grandson, John Fanta, who was on the call for Seton Hall and St. John's and then UConn Creighton. So he's been all over the map when it comes to these Big East games. Fanta, I told you this story a little bit last night, but I just want to let everybody know that my children are totally obsessed with you. Over the weekend, we had my dad's birthday here on Sunday, and my daughter grabbed the thank you card that you wrote for the people that came to your wedding and walked around and showed every single person that was there and said, this is Fanta and his wife. She doesn't know that your name is John. She just knows that your name is Fanta. And then last night, driving home from my son's game, I put on the Creighton UConn game on my phone so he could watch it in the back seat. And literally the first thing that he says is, wait, Dad, is that Fanta talking? I'm just like, wow. How does everybody here know who Fanta is? You just have a way, a connection with the younger generation, John.
Well, I appreciate that, Rob. I mean, I guess my name rhymes with Santa, so maybe there's a connection with the children that I don't know about. But I'm glad that the kids are fans. It's nice to be liked, and I'm glad that your children are fans. I love that, and your kids had to love that it was a great night for the Connecticut Huskies on Wednesday night because they shine, they flourished, and a pleasure to be with Raft. He's 80 years young, and he is just outstanding. I mean, he's just as good as he was when he started, if not better. He knows everything, but in such a humble way. And there's just not a better personality on television than Bill Raftery. I mean, he is incredible. My favorite sequence of the game, we're in the second half and UConn is well in place to win. And he said, he goes, yes, UConn has scoring options. This is vintage Hurley. Defense and rebounding is their motto. And there's a long pause. And I said, what was yours? And he goes, try to get through the end of the season. And I laughed on the air about as loud as I've ever laughed. Like, I was genuinely shocked that he said that, because that's the thing about Ref. He's not going to shy away from the fact he wasn't a Hall of Fame coach. He didn't win 7,000 games. But when Dave Gavitt says, you're a better talker than you are coach. And Dave Gavitt got him on TV. It's the best move ever because he's been unbelievable on television.
Yes,
not afraid to make fun of himself.
Yes, he has. Bill Raftery, Dick Vitale, those guys are icons in the sport, regardless of whether or not you enjoy what they have to say on the TV broadcast. Legends. T.O., it's nice to see that.
Did you know Raftery was drafted in the NBA?
I did not know that.
I did know that. Yeah, he played. I mean, he was a good player.
Yeah. What was it? The 1963 draft in the 14th round.
Different time. Yeah.
82nd overall pick.
14th round. That's hilarious. T.O., I'm glad that you were able to make it. T.O. was out covering a bunch of Mountain West games and doing the broadcast for him, and his plane.
Such a fun league.
Yeah, his plane crashed. So he actually is doing this show right now from a pasture right outside Albuquerque in front of one of the mountains out there in Colorado.
This is not what Albuquerque looks like. Albuquerque does not look like this. I'm flying in. And I look out the window. I was like, is there ever any greenery during the summers? And the person sitting beside me, she's like, no, it's pretty brown year round. I was like, okay, sounds good.
Is it true that you have to, because Raph said this to me because he was just coming from the pit.
Yeah.
Is it true that you have to, and he had never been there, walk up a bunch of stairs?
Yeah. There's no entry. There's no entry down low. So like it's literally they built it down. So like the building itself's not tall when you walk in, but you walk down into it's literally a pit where they put the basketball. And then you have to go to the bathroom, you have to walk up a mountain to get
That's
up
what
to
Raf
where the
said.
yeah. I mean, it's a long. I could see where it would be challenging for Raf.
I feel like we have to. Man, I've never been out there. That place sounds like it's a get for us. Yeah.
Awesome. They've made some renovations, but it's not lost its character. And like it's aluminum seating behind both baskets. When I walked in, I had to walk in through the ticket office because I couldn't find an open door. And I was like, how many are you expecting? They were like, well, we're about 70% sold. 70% of 16,000 or whatever it is. I was like, oh, okay. They were like, we're sorry, it's just not going to be that many. So by the time I get down to the floor, somebody comes, well, they've sold 13,000 tickets. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I talked to Richard Pitino. Richard was like, yeah, they apologized to me whenever they sell less than 13,000. We ended up selling out that night. So like people in New Mexico, like they love hoop. People are excited. Fans were in it. It was really an incredible atmosphere. One and two, like it really is a pit. Oh, and Holly Holmes, former UFC champion, sat 2 rows behind me.
Wow.
So that was cool. I mean, it's a truly unique environment, and they bring it, man. They bring it. They had like 4 guys out on bicycles, dressed as the insane clown posse running around the freaking the parking lots riding bike. Like it's a scene. It was a lot of fun. I worked with Jordan Kent, who's Ernie Kent's son, first time, but we worked together wonderfully. And then the whole production, I mean, anytime you work with FS1 or FS2, man, like they really have it together. It's quite nice. And that league, we're going to talk about it. It's extremely entertaining. It's extremely fun. And the marriage between New Mexico, the pit, and what Richard Pitino does, chef's kiss. Like,
well, let's awesome. Just get into it. Let's get into it now. We'll talk about UConn in a second. Let's get into it now, because I do think that the point that you made about the environment that New Mexico has, the way that the city and the people around that university buy into it, how many people show up to games, it's not that different from San Diego State. It's not that different from Boise State. It's not that different from Utah State. It's not that different from Colorado State. Like the even Nevada, and Reno, people really follow the Wolfpack. So I don't think
they have all the crowds. They have all the crowds that the Pac-12 wishes it had.
Yes.
Like it's awesome.
Yeah. Great
and
point.
it's the only show in town too. Most of these cities that are not huge cities like a Los Angeles or, wherever else in that league. But like, I think Tucson, they obviously have great crowds. Outside of that, Pac-12 just kind of sucks. The Mountain West, they've got it figured out when it comes to college athletics.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. So let's talk to you. How good are the teams in this league? Like you saw New Mexico up close.
Saw Boise.
Yeah, you've seen Boise up close.
Got Colorado State, Nevada next week. Like, I will say, I love Danny Sprinkle in Utah State. There's going to be a coming back down to earth situation for them. Just because they are good, but the pressure that New Mexico was able to apply really bothered them. And I was actually shocked about that because I thought Great Osobor was going to be better in handling pressure, bringing it up. I thought that Darius Brown II, I thought he was going to be able to handle things, being an older player and one of the biggest assist guys. There's going to be a coming back to earth a little bit with Utah State, and I think they were expecting that because their strength of schedule was terrible at the beginning of the season. They played nobody, and you're going to play in some environments in the Mountain West Conference. The good part is there's a lot of opportunities in that league because by and large that league did phenomenal in the non-con. So like whenever you play in a league where the teams have done well, you're going to have chances, and Utah State will end up getting in. It's just I do think there's going to be a bit of the highs were really high. Now it's going to be a little bit of a comeback to reality. Still very good team. I'm not sure this is a top 15, top 20 team. They're in that 20 to 30 range more so. And there's a lot of teams
in this league at that
range.
level in your mind? We've seen Utah State get ranked there. We've seen San Diego State get ranked there. We've seen Colorado State get ranked there. And I'm assuming at some point, someone else in this conference is going to go on a win streak of like 4 or 5 games and find themselves ranked in that 20th range. Is
New Mexico could get in there. New Mexico could get in there and be ranked because
remember that
pressure. Holy cow, pressure. And not only do they pressure the ball incredibly well, like they have Jalen House. And if you haven't watched this guy play and you just want excitement, like fly by the seat of your pants, like he's unbelievably fast. He's a little bit annoying for other teams. And like the good part about what Pitino's done is he's fit his pressure system around some of his guys. So like he's like, Jalen, if you feel like you can go get it. And then we'll rotate behind you. They scramble about as well as anybody I've seen this year. Mm-hmm. And they are small. So if like they run into like a UConn, for example, anybody runs into UConn. But if you run into a team with bigger guards that can really control the tempo, I think they'll have a hard time because they won't be able to create turnovers. But the good part is if they're able to speed you up, it's death almost, because they've got JT Toppin, who reminds me so much of Gerald Wallace. It's crazy. Like same kind of player. And then they have Nelly Jr. Joseph, he was athletic last year when I saw him at Iona. Like he's starting to come into his game more. He got his visa like October 24th and then flew right over and played October 25th in their exhibition game. So like he's starting to finally get his rhythm. They have talent. They're fun to watch. I think Boise's, I could see them in that 8-9 game, that 11-12 game, the play-in game. I could see that. The other ones, though, like I'm putting them firmly in the tournament. Like it's a good league. It's better this year than it was last year. Much better.
Well, you just look at the records. You know, these teams accumulated wins in their non-conference. So what's going to be interesting to see is who wins the league.
Yeah,
and that's going to come down to who can win on the road. Mm-hmm. All these teams are tough at home, and I mean New Mexico. They haven't lost at the Pit this year. They're 10-0, but they're 1-3 in road games. But the other thing is, as Richard talked to us about After Dark, and I'm sure talked to you about, they haven't been fully healthy. So now they're getting their full complement of players between House and Mashburn and Toppin, who's been the revelation here. They've got the pieces. I mean, they really do. They have the pieces to win one, now multiple NCAA tournament games. Colorado State, the thing about them is that Stevens walks into the gym. He's the best player to win. He's a killer. He makes plays. He's a dude. I mean, I could just see the tournament right now rolling out to a break with that March Madness music, and Isaiah Stevens is the guy. He's got that. Nevada, Steve Alford's done a remarkable job with this team. They're really good, and I've watched them a couple of times now. They've had a couple of losses lately, but they started the year 15-1, and they went to Hawaii. They won an MTE, the Diamond Head Classic. They beat TCU, guys. They beat TCU by 13. They scored 88 points against TCU. People do not do that against Jamie Dixon's team. Ask the Big 12 how that works. So I love this league, and I want to give an immense amount of credit to the Mountain West because there's a lot of leagues who would like to be like them. And they're the best West Coast league, and it is not even remotely close.
Yeah, not even close. The comparison that Richard always makes is he wants the Mountain West to be the left coast counterpart to the Big East.
I've heard that from multiple Mountain West coaches, and guys, I'm not mad at it. Now at the top, obviously, there's no UConn in that league, but the rest. I mean, you can not all that far off. I don't think it's not as good, but it's not that far off.
I don't think it's that crazy. Like, I love, and we'll get into UConn in a second. I think that Danny keeping it at the level that it is at right now for UConn is probably not something that is doable. Like outside of Kansas, how often do you see a team that is top 5 every single year? Right? There's going to be
dynasty time in stores.
It might look. I'm not going to complain if it is. That's a very difficult thing to do. Time. That's a very difficult thing to do in the era of the transfer portal and everybody kind of leaving early. So, if he can pull it off, that would be very, very impressive. But once you get past UConn, there's a lot of similarities there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now obviously, Tyler Kolek is a man in himself, and Cam Jones is really talented, but like. Really good guard play, like that's up and down the roster, and for both leagues. Like New Mexico,
you have great guard play, you have great environments, you have really, really, really good coaching, and you have a conference that is invested in the success of the basketball programs as much.
And
as
you have different styles of play.
Yes.
Within the league. Like that was one thing I remember talking to Laval, who, we've all become great friends with and who I think is awesome. He said, I'm a Big Ten guy. I go to the Big East. I have to deal with different kinds of styles every night. Mountain West, same way. Like you got to go from playing Leon up at Boise State to playing New Mexico, who's helter-skelter crazy. Like it's something different every day, to playing San Diego State, who's going to try to beat you up, to Utah State that's trying to run out. Like tough league, man. Fun league. Fun
right.
League.
Here's what we're going to do, and then we're going to move on. I want you guys to give me the prediction of who you think can make the deepest run. Fanta, you are not allowed to say New Mexico on this one. We know what you're feeling on New Mexico. Give me another pick for a team that can make a deep run. Tio, you go first.
Am I allowed to pick New Mexico?
If you want to.
No. Look, Fanta, you can go ahead and go first because now here's the thing. San Diego State has the best front court player in the league. Colorado State has the best point guard in the league. The best collection of guards is probably at New Mexico, and Tyson Degehart's a stretch four that can give you 35. Like it's so much fun, that league. If I had to pick one, I would, depending on draw, I think that's the big thing. New Mexico can give teams problems with that pressure. They could make a Sweet 16. I mean that.
Vanna?
Well, because I'm a little bit concerned about them defensively, but because of how dangerous they are on the offensive end of the floor, since I can't pick New Mexico, I didn't have any agenda with New Mexico in the preseason. I like their makeup and their experience.
You're not wrong. You were right.
But Rick Pitino tells me I need to see a mental health expert and all that stuff. So, okay. I'll take Colorado State because of Stevens and just how much he does. And Nick Clifford just he rebounds the basketball.
He's so explosive.
He's shooting 50% from three on the
good?
season. They got three guys. Yeah, they got three guys shooting at least 46% from three and taking threes because Patrick Cartier, that guy has had a couple of big games. So I really like Colorado State, and I think Nico Medved's due.
Yeah. Give me San Diego State then. I can't believe you guys just left there. I had the third pick, and I got the team that made it to the national title game last season. Give me San Diego State. Give me Jaden.
Yeah, it's a good
Reese Dixon Waters. In all seriousness, I think that the emergence of Reese Dixon Waters as kind of a go-to guy offensively has been a pretty significant development for them. All right,
and it's all matchups too. It's all matchups too. Like if you set, New Mexico up against somebody that's not that can't handle the ball, that struggled with that, they're going to blow them out of the water. If you set San Diego State up with somebody who's a little softer, they're going to beat the shit out of them. Like it's such a weird thing the way the NCAA tournament's being seeded now with this crappy net rankings that like it just depends on the day to day whoever gets matched up with who, which we saw in the tournament last year.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the sport. That's why the NCAA tournament is the best way to crown a champion and the worst way to figure out who the best team in the sport is. It's the beautiful insanity of college basketball that we all love. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Field 158. Fanta, you were in Gamble last night. The sound that came through the television when watching that game was loud. It was immense. It felt like a big time atmosphere at a big time program. And it's not always that way when it comes to UConn home games. Some of it is because of the early tips. Some of it is because not everybody likes trying to make the trek all the way to Hartford, which is not the greatest building to watch a game in. But I think the whiteout combined with Creighton, combined with the $2 Miller Lights, it worked, man. That building was loud and intense. Talk to me about what you saw last night in stores.
Well, when they're at Gamble, it's just a different level. It just makes it so much tougher for a visitor because the building's more intimate. They're on top of you there, and the students just bring it, and they brought it on Wednesday night. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, you just knew before the game how big of a game it was with the whiteout, and the students were camped out outside Gamble Pavilion starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was 18 degrees. I mean, that's I want to give a serious shout out to the Connecticut students. That is having cojones. That is hanging with your team. That's bringing your A game to the game. As for the game, this was a game where heading in, as somebody calling the game, you instantly say to yourself, well, stay out of the way because let the crowd tell what's happening. Better than anything I could say. And I'll tell you what, last night was a layout night, meaning as you just lay out and you let off big buckets, you just let them go. And there was a sequence where Castle finds Klingon for the alley-oop. Raf says, say goodnight. And I just said, Klingon does just that. It's wild at Gamble. And we had 15 seconds of nothing but the crowd, and they caught the entire UConn chant, and it was chills up your arms type of energy in the building. That is the best I have seen this UConn team defend all season. It's the best defensive performance I've seen from Connecticut, maybe in the last 2 seasons. They absolutely cooked Creighton with their defense. They defended their tails off. They were right there in all the right places defensively. They guarded the heck out of Kalkbrenner. The way that they defended ball screens was fantastic, and Rob's going to get into it. But man, guys, they just made Creighton's life a nightmare to a point that every Creighton possession was going down to 10 seconds on the shot clock, 7 seconds on the shot clock.
That's unbelievable.
Every single possession. And this Creighton team, they've got their own issues. And last night and even the game before against St. John's, their offense showed its limitations and their lack of athleticism. Their lack of athleticism was my takeaway watching them live. But UConn just really guarded an elite level. UConn shot just over 35% and won the game handily. It was never in doubt. But Creighton, in their last 2 games, fellas, and this is why the Blue Jays have concerns, in their last 2 games, Creighton shot 6 for 27 from 3 against St. John's, T.O. And Creighton shot 6 for 26 from 3 against UConn. UConn took the way Connecticut ran Creighton off the line is the best defensive job I've seen a Dan Hurley-led team, nor alone any team, do against the Creighton Blue Jays. UConn out-athleted, out-toughed, and just dominated them.
Yeah, what they did in ball screens, and I talked about this on After Dark last night, is it was the first time that I've seen them really do it to this level since last season, right? Last year, what made them so difficult is that they would have Sonogo like hard hedging ball screens when he was in there, and you got to guard that a certain way, and you have rotations that are doing certain things on the weak side. And then when Donovan Klingen's in there and you're playing drop coverage, it's a completely different kind of thing that you're doing offensively and defensive connectivity and different rotations and different calls. And we don't need to get into the weeds of it, but they did it last night where Samson Johnson, when he was out there, he was hedging hard. It was almost to the point where they were trapping the ball screen to try to take the ball out of the ball handler's hands. And then when Klingen was in there, was the typical drop where you kind of stay at home on the weak side and you do what drop coverage always is. And to me, it was really impressive that you are able to be at that level with two different kind of ball screen coverages. And Tio, you could probably speak to this a little bit better than I can. That makes it very difficult for the team that you are playing when you have to go through and prepare for two completely different styles of defense against something that you're doing offensively. And I was just like, you hit the nail on the head, Fan. I think that was the best defensive performance from the 10-minute mark of the first half to the 10-minute mark of the second half was the best that I've seen UConn defend in the Dan Hurley era. The rotations, the communication, there were some switches there that they weren't switching, but there were switches that were made because it made sense and the guys were connected and the rotations were there. I think there was maybe one possession the entire game where I sat there and I was like, oh yeah, someone was supposed to be here and he wasn't here. Now, they have guys that get beat off the dribble. Cam Spencer's not going to stay in front of a ton of people, but generally speaking, he's in the right spot. And when you have the Great Wall of Bristol, when you have the Kling Kong at the rim,
the Great Wall of Bristol, I like that.
Yeah, you can get beat off the dribble and you don't necessarily have to worry about it. The big question I had was, what is UConn going to be defensively? And if that's what they are, even like 90% of what they were last night, then that's a team that can go back to back.
Oh, absolutely. They're the best team in the country. They are the best team in the country. It's not even a question right now. They are number one. And when they defend like that, wow. Guys, early in the game, you know what Creighton did? Creighton said, Stephon Castle, we're going to dare you to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
And he eventually made one. So, T.O., they just went middle. Creighton just said, we're going to take away driving lanes. And early on, it was working. Tristan Newton.
I mean,
Tristan
Newton, to be honest, it worked the entire game. UConn shot 35% from the floor, 26% from three, and scored 62 points at home in a whiteout in a $2 beer night game. Creighton's defense was not the problem.
No,
UConn short, like they scouted UConn well. I thought that they actually played very, very well defensively. UConn did not play great on the offensive.
No, but in a game where UConn scores 62 points, Tristan Newton essentially accounted for half of them because he had the 16 points. He also had 5 assists, not to mention he had 8 rebounds. And that's the other thing. The glass was a massive problem for Creighton. Guys, Connecticut out-rebounded Creighton 48-32. It wasn't close. Connecticut had 21 offensive rebounds, Terrence.
That's insane. That can't happen.
In the last 2 years, guys, Connecticut's out-rebounded their opponents 49 times.
Yep. That's something too. That's like a little bit stylistic because Creighton will let their guards get out to those not leak out spots, but like those outlet spots. Hassan Diarra had 4, Tristan Newton had 4. So like, is that them tagging? What's that? When I say tagging, there's a way to offensive rebound to where, anyway, that's a very complicated thing to explain on a podcast, but are they attacking with the guards? Like that's a huge thing. And it's so many extra opportunities is nuts. And hey, Fanta, I have to do this. I think Joe Williams was doing your game. He was a producer. Was it Joe?
Yes.
And I haven't met Joe in person, but man, the fact that, sometimes you'll run into producers, they do a million different sports and everything like that. For him to keep the camera rolling to break with the UConn chant, that just showed like his general, kudos to that guy. That was awesome. That was one of the best usages of like, hey, man, lay out. We know what's coming. We're going to make sure it works. And it worked. Phenomenal job by him. Anyway, outside of that.
Can I just elaborate on that real quick? Like, when
there's an art to that, like a real art and a feel. Like the really good ones have excellent feel. And
so the best thing about college basketball, and I've said this before, Tio, and you're 100% right. The best thing about college basketball is the atmosphere with which is played in, and the passion with which the fans and the coaches and the players and everybody that loves this sport and participates in the sport that they have for it. And when you can get that to come through on a broadcast, that's what makes it great. If you're trying to watch the highest level of basketball, right? If you want to see incredible shot making and incredible skill and all these ridiculous dunks and highlights and this and that, like, you're watching the NBA, right? That's where the guys are the best. The thing that makes college basketball so good is the environment you play it in, the passion that everybody has, the noises, the student sections, the chants. So when you are able to capture that on a broadcast where you actually feel the UConn chant going on, and that's all you hear, and it's only coming through the mic that Fanta has on his headset, where that blocks out a lot of the sound, that should tell you how loud it is in that building. And it's great when these producers are able to to capture that. Yeah, you get the feel for being there coming through the TV set. And when you're doing remote broadcasts, and when you it's not the same. And when like there's not a big crowd there, when we were doing all the COVID stuff and there were no fans in the building, it's just not the same. And it's just that's it right there. That's what makes the sport great. And it's not just, I'm not just saying that because it's UConn. It's like wherever you are, when you feel that coming through the TV, that's when you get the chills, man. That's what makes the sport great, Tio. Sorry.
Yeah, I worked with a guy. I worked with the guy at New Mexico, Bobby Hayden, who did a terrific job too. Like, he was awesome. Because if there's ever a person that hits you up after a game, and Fanta can attest, that they're like, man, it looked crazy in there. Man, the energy in there looked nuts. That's the producers doing. Mm-hmm. That's the producers doing. Like, we can help try to accentuate the points, accentuate the energy. But if it really feels like an atmosphere in there that's crazy, that's the producer showing you. Like, and those guys have their hands full. There's a billion screens back there. but Bobby and his crew did a great job. Joe and his crew obviously did a great job. It's not that easy to put together. Like, the product on the screen, and sometimes you don't realize this. You don't realize what all goes into it. Poof, those guys had their hands full. Back to the point, I agree with you guys. UConn, when they played defense to the level in which they did, guys, I'm going to be honest, like, I don't know what you do against them. So big, so physical. And the multiple ball screen things, you have to have an elite guard who not only is great with the ball, but knows when to give it up. That's a hard thing. Like, you have to have a guard that's willing to give it up, then willing to keep it at certain points. And he has to read it instantaneously, depending on who's in. And he has to recognize who's in as soon as they come in the game. So, like, that's not an easy fix. Now, some coaches can manufacture ways to beat those different kinds of pressure, but you still have to have a point guard that can recognize it and understand that it's coming. And that's asking a lot out of a lot of young point guards. That's asking a lot.
Yeah, that's the knock on Creighton, is they don't really have a
Ashworth is a good player. He's not necessarily a point guard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, same with Trey Alexander, same with Baylor Shire. Like, they got a bunch of guys that can do point guardy kind of stuff, but they're not really point guards. Real quick, where do you guys stand on kind of the Big East overall? Like, is Creighton still a top 4 team? Is Marquette still a top 4 team? Is this a UConn Seton Hall race? Is this UConn all by themselves? Tio, why don't you go first, and then we'll let Fanta weigh in, because I know Fanta's going to have lots of thoughts on this.
You know what? I think Marquette's still really good. They're just figuring out a bunch of stuff. Like, the league's still really good. It's just, one, it's a tough league. Two, there's deficiencies in this league. And we said this coming into the season too. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a lot of hype, but there were very big holes with certain rosters. Like, for example, Marquette interior presence. Is Kolek going to have the magical year that he had last year? And he's been great some days, and he had a 2-game span where he wasn't great. And as a result, Marquette struggled. Seton Hall, for me, is the surprising one. Like, I think we expected them to be okay right outside that top 5 or 6 NIT type of team. Man, Shaheen's got him going. And you know why he's got him going? Because Fanta's favorite player, Kadari Richmond, has been a bad boy. And he is as talented as they come. You remember a couple of years ago, I was like, I can't believe he wasn't playing more at Syracuse. Mm-hmm. And apparently, dude'll show up when he feels like it during the offseason. But, like, he's finally bought in completely to being the player that he can be. And that's what that is it's a guy who can get a triple-double. I don't think he's gotten one this year, has he, Fanta? But a guy that is capable of those kind of things. and a guy who is just physically imposing. They are the guys that have just shocked me more than anything. You're voting right now, Big East Coach of the Year. It's Shaheen. It's Shaheen.
You know what's funny about that? I think you can make an argument that Dan Hurley should be the National Coach of the Year, right? Considering what they lost, considering the injuries that they dealt with, you can make an argument Hurley is National Coach of the Year. And I think it's a very valid argument that Shaheen is Big East Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Right? It's both of those guys have done an incredible job. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Anna. Go ahead.
No, good.
Well, so here's the thing. UConn is the national title contender in this league. And I think that there's one national title contender in this league. I don't think that Marquette is anymore. I don't think Creighton is. But because the way the league season started, the league helped itself in terms of units, tournament units. Because Marquette beat Kansas in Maui. And that was such a huge moment for them. The night they did that, we knew that would have unlimited mileage. Now that they've taken some lumps, there's been other teams who have then benefited off of that. So St. John's metrics are way up. And St. John's look like a shell of themselves with Rick Pitino sidelined. St. John's hopes to have Pitino back Saturday. I think he'll be back coming off COVID. I think he'll have a couple-day stint in which he gets right, and he's going to be back on Saturday. Nothing's
Did you see the Seton Hall student section all wearing masks? That was right next to the St. John's bench. That was pretty good.
Pretty high level. That's pretty high level there. Seton Hall is doing incredible things with a roster that has 1/10 of the NIL budget of Villanova and one inkling of the budget of many others in the conference. And this is a direct credit to Shaheen Holloway, who again turned water into wine at St. Peter's. Okay? You don't just, and the churchgoers will love that reference because, yeah, he performed a miracle at a school that could have shuttered its doors 5-6 years ago. And he made them an Elite Eight team. You didn't forget how to coach. As much as last year was a struggle for Seton Hall at times, he still ended up with the most wins a first-year coach at that program's ever had. That program's been around for 115 years. So what he's doing there, guys, is incredible. It is incredible because they don't have the resources. They don't have the dollars. They've got a good fan base. That fan base is now going to have to step up. They're going to have to do something on the NIL front because you can't win to this degree in the Big East and do nothing. I am so impressed by how they're playing. Are they deep? No. In fact, if you looked, I was looking at research for the UConn Creighton game. The last 15 years, teams that relied the fewest on their benches, top 5 teams in the Big East in terms of percentage of bench minutes, this year's Creighton and this year's Seton Hall would be 2 of the best 5. 2 of the top 5 in terms of not relying on your bench. It's Kadari Richmond, it's Alamir Dawes, it's Dre Davis, it's Jaden Bediako. And Bediako has been the surprise. He transferred from Santa Clara. Who did he play for? He played for Herb Sendek. What program he played for? Santa Clara. Guess what Santa Clara knows how to do? Develop pros. So he knows how to play the game. He's got great hands. He defends his tail off. He's there. And now Dawes is hitting shots. And Dylan Adewusu. Dylan Adewusu's gotten better and better. He's playing his best basketball of his career.
He's been an awesome addition.
He figured it out for Holloway. So when teams double Richmond, Richmond's not forcing the issue. He gives it off to Adewusu because he trusts him. And one thing about Adewusu, one-on-one coverage, he's got elusive speed. He'll get by you. He'll figure out a way to finish. They are legit. They're not just red hot. They're legit. Seton Hall, I'm buying all the way. I know that I went there. I get it, but I'm telling you guys, they've got it. I think the thing with this league is I'm still uncertain about Villanova. Villanova's upcoming stretch. UConn, at St. John's, at Butler, Marquette, Providence. That's a really dangerous stretch here for Kyle Neptune's team. I think St. John's going to keep rising. My dark horse in the back half is Xavier. Don't think they'll make the tournament, but I think that they could be a team that finishes higher than we expect by the end of the year because Sean Miller's team keeps getting better.
It's funny that you mentioned that about Villanova because every single team in the Big East like has a stretch where Seton Hall's next 3 games: Creighton at home, Providence at home, at Marquette. After they get DePaul and Georgetown, then it's at Villanova, Xavier, St. John's, Butler, at Creighton, at UConn, Villanova. Like it's just every single team in this league has a stretch of like 5 or 6 games where you're like, how the hell are they going to make their way through all of this?
By the way, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry for saying this. No, I'm not. DePaul's the worst Big East team in the conference's history. This iteration of them, I will. I'll give you the banner. I will call it now. They are not winning a conference game.
Yeah, their
average margin of loss outside their Georgetown game. Their average margin of loss in the Big East. Terrence, you need to hear this number. Is 31.
Oof.
Yeah, they've packed it in. They've given up. They're playing out the season. They're there. Everyone's looking for the place to transfer to, where they're going to go next year, what they're going to do next season. Are they going to go pro? Are they going to, they've
call Willie Wade.
They've called it a season. They have called it a season. I don't even know if Will Wade's the right fit there, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, right. Will Wade's a perfect fit there.
I think Will Wade's a better fit at a place like a West Virginia. Well, I guess my bigger point is that
I just feel like the problem with DePaul has always been good.
Well, no, I think that there's going to be other options for Will Wade that will be more appealing to him than DePaul. That's all my point. I think he would do a good job there. I'm just saying I don't know if he would go there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Got to be able to get dudes in Chicago. And they just have a bunch of other dudes. Like they've got a bunch of it's not good, and it's just ugly. It's just ugly. I hate it for Stubbs because he waited a long time for his turn. Just not working.
It is not.
Hey, and here's the thing. Like, there's a lot of guys that are terrific assistant coaches, not good head coaches. We found it out. We found out with those things. Stubbs was their recruiter at Oregon, and not a great head coach. Kenny Payne, great recruiter at Kentucky, not a great head coach. Those things just happen, and that's okay. That's okay.
I also think like when the Kenny Payne one and Tony Stubblefield are different to me, but when you're at DePaul, like you have to be. It's going to take a lot to get that thing revived, and I don't know. Like I think Stubbs could have done well at a different spot, but asking him to be the guy to revive the DePaul program that's not an easy thing to do. So now that the college football season is in the past and college basketball is in full swing, I need to tell you guys about our partners over at Rhythm. If you're into sports betting, you need Rhythm, the place for data-backed props and picks. For those that are unfamiliar, Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, is the go-to mobile app for player props and game picks. Backed by AI predictive models, Rhythm helps you make smarter and faster betting decisions across all sports, but particularly college hoops, where there are as many as 150 games a day during conference play, many of which have softer lines at BetMGM than you'll find in the NFL or in the NBA. With Rhythm, you get data-backed picks for every Division I game every day. Users get free picks daily with the ability to upgrade to unlimited access. And for those of you already using modeling, you can build custom sports betting models within the Rhythm app itself. I am a Rhythm user, and I've found that I've been a better bettor when I focus on the lines where my gut and Rhythm's modeling are aligned. To kick off the partnership between the Field of 68 and Rhythm, 3 people who download Rhythm at the link below and create an account between now and the end of the day on Thursday will be entered for a chance to win a free subscription with access to unlimited picks for college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, and more. So if you want to increase your edge and win more bets, go to the link in the description and download Rhythm today. That's RITHMM, the place for data-backed props and picks. All right, I want to talk about the top of the SEC. The top of the SEC is fascinating to me because the 2 teams that are the highest rated and sitting in first place right now in the conference are Auburn and Alabama, and the best wins that they have between them are Mississippi State and Texas A&M. You have Kentucky and Tennessee, who are both 1 game out of the top spot, who have a couple more losses, but maybe have some more impressive wins. So I just want to roll through it quick. Let's do each one of these. Let's be fast on this, but I want to go just a little game of trust or bust on if you trust them to be a legitimate Final Four contender, SEC title contender, or if you think they're a bust where you don't think they are. Let's start with Auburn, T.O. Let's start with your Tigers. Trust or bust?
Trust, defense, Aiden Holloway, big enough guys for some rim protection, and that style just gives people fits. I'm going trust on Auburn.
Fanta?
Absolutely trust, and the metrics trust the hell out of them. When you look at Auburn, they're one of only 2 teams in the country that ranks top 10 in adjusted offense and defense efficiency. Them and Arizona, interestingly enough. So they guard the heck out of you. They're guarding at an extremely high level. And when they start to knock down perimeter shots, which they made 8, they get some guys coming in off the bench that can knock down some shots for them. But I'm loving the production right now out of Jalen Williams. I mean, he's got 2 20-plus point games in the last 3 games. And Janai Broom's going to hold things down in the front court. I buy Auburn all the way. Trust.
Yeah, I trust them as well. And T.O., the thing that stands out to me more than anything else, your guy, KD Johnson, right? Your guy that runs on nightmare fuel. 2-year starter for the program, a guy that's kind of been a stalwart in that program, has accepted a role as like the 6th or 7th man coming off the bench to a freshman, to a transfer coming in from FIU. And I don't think it can be overstated how important it is to have guys that are kind of like, I think it's fair to say KD Johnson is the culture guy at Auburn, right? To have him accept a role and buy all the way in, that just says so much to me about what Auburn is right now.
Agreed. You said to keep it short.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Alabama. Trust or bust? Santa, we'll go to you first on that one.
You did. I didn't have anything else for you. You said to keep it short.
I just wanted your thoughts on KD, man. I know you love KD Johnson. I was going to tee you up.
I do. No, I think it's big of him. It's big of him, and that's not easy to do when guys are getting older, especially in today's where everybody's like, "Well, okay, what do I have to do to get to the next level?" And he's just like, "You know what? I like it here. I want this. I want to make my mark by winning." I think that's a huge thing.
Yep.
I don't trust Alabama. I don't think that they guard well enough. They're 65th in defense. They have not been a team that's guarded. They got the best offense. They have the best KenPom offense in the country.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they're number 1. And the analytics like them because of that, guys. They've won 6 in a row. They're playing great ball. But I'm not surprised by that. But you're asking me if I trust or bust for Final Four contention, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust the Crimson Tide to that degree.
T.O.?
Same thing, kind of deal. Mark Sears has been awesome. They're just not guarding. And whenever they play somebody like, it's going to sound like I'm picking on somebody, and a bunch of all 13 Missouri fans that I said something about the other day, all 13 Missouri fans came at me. But Alabama's conference schedule so far: Vanderbilt,
easy,
South Carolina. They smacked South Carolina. South Carolina's not as talented as the rest of the SEC. I think Lamont's done a great job, but they're just not as talented. It's the Southern Conference All-Stars. They're just not as talented as the rest of the league. Mississippi State.
Wow. What a shot from you.
Nah, what do you mean?
No, I don't know. You just call an SEC team the Southern Conference All-Stars.
Have you looked at the roster?
Yeah.
They are the Southern Conference All-Stars.
I have. I don't disagree with you. I just
okay. I just wanted to make sure. They are.
That was a good line. That was a good line. That's all he's saying is that was a good line, T.O. Did you come up? Had you thought of that previously, or did that just pop into your head? Who said it to you? Someone did.
Someone said that to you.
Someone said it to you. You're not that clever.
No, when I watched him play at Clemson, it was like every guy that I did a Furman game for over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Like BJ Mack, the kid from the Citadel who's long, lean shot blocker. And then, anyway, it doesn't matter. But they're not as talented. Mississippi State's fine. They're fine. They got thumped yesterday, but they're fine. And then Mizzou. So it's like anybody that they've played worth their salt, and I would argue that Mississippi State, now that Tolu Smith is back, is much better, but I digress. Arizona lost, gave up a ton of points. Creighton lost, gave up a ton of points. Purdue lost, gave up a ton of points. Clemson lost, gave up a ton of points. Ohio State lost, gave up a ton of points.
Creighton scored 85 on them.
Yeah. I don't think Clemson right now could score 85 by themselves.
Yeah, right.
So
Upcoming schedule, though, tough. Beat one of these upcoming two teams.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Fanta, is right now I'm going bust when it comes to Final Four upside and winning the SEC upside. But you go 1-2 at Tennessee, Auburn at home, and this next week, and we'll have a different conversation. If you can get one of those two games, it's a different conversation. All right, speaking of Tennessee, T.O., your boys, go old Rocky Top, don't connect, 39 points.
Bad man.
I think he's got 39 and 36 in his last two games. Are you buying them? Do you trust them?
I'm buying them because it's so hard to play against them when they guard. And then when Dalton Connect is as good as what he's been, and he has been phenomenal. What was it over the last 3 games? He scored over 100 points or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Dude.
Yep.
And he's doing them all in Rick Barnes' offense, which might be 50 in other offenses. So it's like one of these things like
the thing I love about it, not to cut you off, the thing I love about it, I just want to add, is that they're not really like running offense. A lot of it is down the stretch. They're just saying, all right, give the ball to our pro. Everybody else get the hell out of the way and let Dalton go.
And the people that are getting out of the way can shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like one of these things. Like he's running the KD offense for Dalton Connect.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Like give it to him, get out of the way. On the other end, you better guard. Defense for Tennessee, number 2 in the country. I'm buying because defense is going to keep them in games. Dalton Connect is going to win them games.
Buying because they've gone from a top 60 offense to like a top 20 offense.
Yeah.
So
because of Dalton Connect.
Because of Dalton Connect. They got a bucket getter. They got a Jimmer Fredette, Doug McDermott type bucket getter. He's that good.
Yeah.
He get him
bigger.
The ball. Get what's that?
Much bigger, much more athletic than both of those guys.
Exactly. He's got it. And they've got guard play. They have veteran guards who have been there before. And with Rick Barnes, you're just going to be tough. But between Ziegler and Vescovi, I love their makeup. They're different this year. Rick had to get better offensively. He had to go into the portal and find a bucket. And man, to get a kid from Northern Colorado and for him to be this good, hell of an acquisition, Coach Barnes.
Yeah, I'm buying them as well. I don't think that they have quite the Final Four upside of the team that we're going to talk about next, but I think that they're right up there because
I know you're going to talk.
Yeah, if I were to tell you guys that Dalton Connect goes on like a Kemba Walker-esque run through the NCAA tournament where he just remember when Steph Curry scored like 128 points in 4 games and got him within a shot at the buzzer of beating Kansas to get to the Final Four. If Dalton Connect goes on a run like that, would anybody be surprised? I certainly would not be surprised. No. They're the 3rd best offense in the SEC, which I think tells you everything you need to know.
I'm buying. Yep. I think Barnes could get to this
Arizona. Is the year. This is the year he does it.
Yep.
Wow.
All right.
Good story.
Kentucky. Where do you stand? Fanta, you go first.
Absolutely buying. If you're not buying, you're a hater. And I'm not a hater. I'm a realist with Big Blue Nation. They absolutely answer all the questions. They're the most dangerous team in transition in the country. And at times what I like about them is they could take a punch and punch back this year. So Mississippi State went on a run, I think a 12-0 run at one point in that game. And Kentucky just punched back because they've got multiple shot makers. They have multiple creators. They don't have to rely on 1 or 2 guys to win. And Antonio Reeves just is quietly having a very nice season. And I know that the freshmen are the headliners, but he's bringing the veteran presence that we want him to bring. I think he's just come back and he's got a purpose about him. He's playing good basketball. Rob, you brought this up on After Dark over the weekend, but when Ugonna Onyenso plays well for them, he opens up something for them. He gives them something different. But guys, Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, DJ Wagner, these guys have been 3 of the best freshmen in America. They've been as advertised, and they've delivered. They've delivered on their ranking. They've delivered on the stars next to their name. Credit to them. If you're not buying Kentucky to make the Final Four and have that upside, you're even Tyler Hansborough's buying them. So I don't know what you're doing. All right, wake up and buy them.
The fact that Hansborough's jumping all in on the Kentucky and then openly admits that he hopes they suck. This is peak Tyler Hansborough.
Did you
By the
see
way,
the
Tyler
picture?
doing some radio now.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you see that picture?
So happy.
Someone quote tweeted and said, I just love the fact that the play-by-play guy has 12 sheets of paper in his notes, and Hansborough just shows up and is winging it. I was dying, but he's so good. I love that he's on our team.
I love it. He's great. He's awesome. Such a
He
curveball.
doesn't give a damn what anybody thinks.
Just a lovable, weightlifting, meat-eating carnivore. That's what he is.
The funniest thing about Hansborough is that there's never a doubt what he thinks, right? Like whatever is going on in his head, like he's going to tell you it straight out. And my other favorite thing about him, I told him this the other night on After Dark, is that no matter what team we talk about, the first player that he's going to shout out is the center.
Every time. Every time.
It's like, oh yeah, and you know what? They got a great big guy, Janai Broom. Oh, you know what? They got a great big guy, Hunter Dickinson. Yeah, he plays hard. He's physical.
He's the best.
I think we got to throw into the post.
I'm so happy we get to talk to him.
We're making him a T-shirt, To, that says "Chicks dig jump hooks."
I like that.
Oh man, yeah, I'm.
It should be for him.
Kentucky.
Chicks dig offensive rebounds.
Yeah, right. I'm obviously in on Kentucky. I will say there's a little bit of Alabama vibes because there are times when I don't trust them entirely defensively. But I do think that Reed Shepherd is a good enough defender that he can kind of get it done. Listen, this has been fun, guys. This has been fun. It's always nice to jump on with you guys on a Thursday afternoon. Fanta's on the phone right now. I wonder who he's talking to.
Matt Norlander.
Nordy bombing the podcast.
I'm on his podcast right when I get done with you. He goes, "Are you still doing that?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "What's Dauster talking about?"
Tyler Hansborough.
I don't get to say anything about Kentucky. Is this where we're at?
No, go ahead. I thought Fanta was done. I thought he was calling. Go ahead,
T.O.
You know what? Hey, hold on. 1-4 low.
No, don't do that. This ain't walk on time.
We're running the Dalton Connect offense. Give the ball to T.O.
This isn't walk on time. This isn't walk on time.
Cook, T.O. Let him go.
No, I think their defensive metrics are a little bit skewed because the bigs didn't come till later in the season. That's my only thing. I think Kentucky's very good. I'm a buyer. That's all I want to say. That's it.
Yeah, I'm in. Do you guys want to do fraud watch? We can go real quick. Give me a yes or no. Fraud watch. Florida State, 5-1 in the ACC, currently sitting in second place. Are you buying them? Are they real or are they frauds?
They've won 5 of 6. Frauds. Are you buying them?
Are you buying them, T.O.? Yeah, you're the ACC guy here.
No, I'm not buying them.
No.
I love
what, like to make the tournament?
I just in general.
I'm glad they're figuring some things out. I'm not buying them.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just don't
Miami's struggling. Notre Dame's not very good. They overwhelm them physically. Wake Forest at home in Tallahassee. Sometimes you fall asleep there. Virginia Tech, if you can pressure their guards, you can beat them. And then Georgia Tech is brand new.
Yeah,
fair enough.
They got 3 quad 3 losses.
Yeah, big one for both them and Clemson next game Saturday.
Could be the end of Clemson's season.
Huge. Could be.
T.O., I wish you weren't new to Clemson basketball. Otherwise, I would ask you about the Clemson Tigers and what you make of them this season.
Full transparency. I haven't been able to watch games because I've been traveling the country. I'm going to go back and watch them just to look at them, but I'm about to eat some crow if they don't get that shit together.
That's probably why they're struggling, man. You know what it is? They know that the one guy that knows Clemson basketball better than anyone else can't even support them. You can't even root for your team. You can't even root for your alma mater. This one's on you. You need to get.
I do root for them.
Yeah, you're not watching the games. But I don't see you wearing your T.O. I don't see you wearing your T.O. is new to Clemson basketball sweatshirt while you're sitting there.
Still hadn't gotten one in the mail. Matter of fact, still hadn't gotten one in the
mail.
mail. I haven't gotten a T-shirt in the mail. Field 68. What, 2 years? When's the last time you got one?
It should be on the way. I sent it through. I paid for it already. I paid for it already. All right. The money has left my account. It should be on the way.
Where do we make our shirts?
All right. Oregon 5-0, Pac-12. Frauds. Fanta, fraud watch. Fraud or not?
No, they're not a fraud. Okay. I have watched them play and a full game. They are a good shot making team. They are a good shot. That team can hit threes quickly. I saw them out at Washington State, and I think they hit 16 threes in the game, and it wasn't just a one-off, it was the flow of their offense. So, no, they are not a fraud. They're younger, but their youth is getting better, and I think Dana Altman's got a good enough team. So, Oregon is not a fraud.
Their best players are their freshmen. And now we're entering the middle of January. They're playing much better after winning 6 in a row. Like the Pac-12 is not very good. We all understand that. Oregon, with those young, talented guys starting to play better, I'm buying on Oregon.
Yeah, and they just got N'Faly Dante back in the last game from I think it was a knee sprain or something like that. So if they can get him going with Kwame Evans and Jackson Shellstead, they're going to be interesting. Seton Hall, Fanta, Fraud Watch, Pirates.
They're the furthest thing from a fraud. They could win the Big East. UConn hasn't won the Big East since 2006. I think UConn is going to win it, but I think Seton Hall is going to finish in the top 3 of this league.
Yeah, I agree. They're not frauds.
I am buying. I'm buying.
I'm buying because, man, those wins that they've had during this little stretch of what have they won? 8 out of their last 9. Their wins are against UConn, at Providence, Marquette at home, and then St. John's at home. Those are some big wins, and they continue to do it. As long as they don't stay away from the injury bug, knock on wood.
That's right.
As long as they don't get hurt, I'm buying Seton Hall. Those dudes play hard.
Yes, they do.
Wisconsin, 5-1, first place in the Big Ten. Fraud watch? Fraud or not? Fraud alert? TO? They just lost to Penn State. Who loses at Penn State? They gave up 87 points to Mike Rhodes. Frauds? Yes?
Don't
no?
turn it over. Don't turn it over.
He doesn't want to buy a Big Ten team.
I don't. Not at all. No, hey, look, Max Klesman's been a pleasant surprise. They've got a bunch of older players on that team. And then there's an AJ Storr. Has been, him coming in added some talent and some ability to create. Hard for me to buy a Big Ten team. I would buy Wisconsin to be good for the rest of this season. Twofold. 1, because I think they are good. And 2, because I think the Big Ten is bad. So there you go.
Can they win it? They're a game up on Purdue right now. They get Purdue twice. Their first game is Sunday, February 4th at home against Purdue. And then the last game of the regular season, the last game of Zach Edey's, most likely Zach Edey's career at Purdue. They're in Mackey Arena for Purdue senior night. Can Wisconsin win the Big Ten? Yes or no?
Yes.
Purdue will win the Big Ten.
That's kind
but can they? Yes. Can Wisconsin? Yes. Purdue could go on a stretch where they lose 3 or 4. They could. Purdue has shot 40% from 3 this season.
Yep. I do think that it is going to be an interesting race. I think that Purdue wins it, but I do think that it will be something where it'll be fun throughout the entire year. I don't think what they win it by like 4 games last season and it wasn't close. I think that it will have an intriguing Big Ten title race. Listen, you got to get on with Norlander, because he's texting me right now, very upset about the fact that he wants to be able to have you on his podcast. It's not my fault. We're sitting here talking. It's the DTF podcast. It's not the Dauster and TO podcast. It's the Dauster, TO, and Fanta podcast. Norlander can take his time. So listen, for John Fanta, for Terrence Oglesby, this has been the DTF podcast. We'll see you guys again next week. I got to mention Vaulted. Vaulted is an app where you can challenge your friends and store your predictions forever. It's VLTED. You can download it from any app store that you're in and any app store where you get these things for absolutely free. So if you want to challenge your friends and store your predictions, go download the app. Here is my challenge to you guys. RC, John, I am still saying that FAU is going to find a way to win the American Conference regular season title. Is that crazy? Am I out of my mind? Am I drunk? I might be a little bit drunk.
You might be, but I don't necessarily think it's crazy. I mean, a lot of basketball to play.
I'll say this. Yes, because we've seen them do it before, and I think all the parts are there. If there's a concern that I have for Florida Atlantic, and I've said all along, I love their culture and how they play when they play the correct way. They look like the games here where they just expect like they know it's going to happen. That's the only thing about them that was surprising to me is where they look like, all right, we're better than you. Like they don't have to come out and play. Like they can just go hit the button on the wall, and that's concerning. But the talent's there. I think they can make